Good morning, this is the Paradise Unicorn Priestess, bringing you day 73 of A Course in Miracles, the Yin translation, where we use female words. This would be March 14th if you're starting at the beginning of the new year. The Unhealed Healer. The ego's plan for forgiveness is far more widely used than God's. This is because it is undertaken by unhealed healers and is, therefore, of the ego. Let us consider the unhealed healer more carefully now. By definition, she is trying to give what she has not received. If an unhealed healer is a theologian, for example, she may begin with the premise, "I am a miserable sinner and so are you." If she is a psychotherapist, she is more likely to start with the equally incredible belief that attack is real for both herself and the patient, but that it does not matter for either of them. I have repeatedly said that beliefs of the ego cannot be shared, and this is why they are unreal. How then can uncovering them make them real? Every healer who searches fantasies for truth must be unhealed because she does not know where to look for truth and therefore does not have the answer to the problem of healing. There is an advantage to bringing nightmares into awareness, but only to teach that they are not real, and anything that they contain is meaningless. The unhealed healer cannot do this because she does not believe it. All unhealed healers follow the ego's plan for forgiveness in one form or another. If they are theologians, they are likely to condemn themselves, teach condemnation, and advocate a fearful solution. Projecting condemnation onto God, they make her appear retaliative and fear her retribution. What they have done is merely to identify with the ego, and by perceiving what it does, condemn themselves because of this confusion. It is understandable that there have been revolts against this concept, but to revolt against it is still to believe in it. Some newer forms of the ego's plan are as unhelpful as the older ones because form does not matter and the content has not changed. In one of the newer forms, for example, a psychotherapist may interpret the ego symbols in a nightmare and then use them to prove that the nightmare is real. Having made it real, she then attempts to dispel its effects by depreciating the importance of the dreamer. This would be a healing approach if the dreamer were also identified as unreal. Yet, if the dreamer is equated with the mind's corrective power through the Holy Spirit is denied. This is a contradiction even in the ego's terms, and one which it usually notes even in its confusion. If the way to counteract fear is to reduce the importance of the mind, how can this build ego strength? Such evidence inconsistencies account for why no one has really explained what happens in psychotherapy. Nothing really does. Nothing real has happened to the unhealed healer, and she must learn from her own teaching. Her ego will always seek to get something from the situation. The unhealed healer, therefore, does not know how to give, and consequently cannot share. She cannot correct, because she is not working correctively. She believes that it is up to her to teach the patient what is real, although she does not know it herself. What then should happen? When God said, "Let there be light," there was light. Can you find light by analyzing darkness, as the psychotherapist does? Or like the theologian, by acknowledging darkness in yourself and looking for a distant light to remove it? Healing is not mysterious. Nothing will change unless it is understood, since light is understanding. A miserable sinner cannot be healed without magic, nor can an unimportant mind esteem itself without magic. Both forms of the ego's approach, then, must arrive at an impasse, the characteristic impossible situation to which the ego always leads. It may help someone to point out where she is heading, but the point is lost unless she is also helped to change her direction. The unhealed healer cannot do this for her, since she cannot do it for herself. The only meaningful contribution the healer can make is to present an example of one whose direction has been changed for her and who no longer believes in nightmares of any kind. The light in her mind will therefore answer the questioner, who must decide with God that there is light because she sees it, and by her acknowledgement the healer knows it is there. That is how perception ultimately is translated into knowledge. The miracle worker begins by perceiving light and translates her perception into sureness by continually extending it and accepting its acknowledgement. Its effects assure her it is there. A therapist does not heal. She lets healing be. She can point to darkness, but she cannot bring light of herself, for light is not of her. Yet, being for her, it must also be for her patient. The Holy Spirit is the only therapist. She makes healing clear in any situation in which she is the guide. You can only let her fulfill her function. She needs no help for this. She will tell you exactly what to do to help anyone she sends you for help, and will speak to her through you if you do not interfere. Remember that you chose the guide for helping, and the wrong choice will not help. But remember also that the right one will. Trust her, for help is her function, and she is of God. As you awaken other minds to the Holy Spirit through her, and not yourself, you will understand that you are not obeying the laws of this world, but the laws you are obeying work. The good is what works, is a sound though insufficient statement. Only the good can work. Nothing else works at all. This course offers a very direct and a very simple learning situation, and provides the guide who tells you what to do. If you do it, you will see that it works. Its results are more convincing than its words. They will convince you that the words are true. By following the right guide, you will learn the simplest of all lessons. By their fruits ye shall know them, and they shall know themselves. Lesson 73. I will there be light. Today we are considering the will you share with God. This is not the same as the ego's idle wishes, out of which darkness and nothingness arise. The will you share with God has all the power of creation in it. The ego's idle wishes are unshared and therefore have no power at all. Its wishes are not idle in the sense that they can make a world of illusions, in which your belief can be very strong, but they are idle indeed in terms of creation. They make nothing that is real. Idle wishes and grievances are partners or co-makers in picturing the world you see. The wishes of the ego gave rise to it, and the ego's need for grievances, which are necessary to maintain it, peoples it with figures that seem to attack you and call for righteous judgment. These figures become the middlemen the ego employs to traffic in grievances. They stand between your awareness and your sister's reality. Beholding them, you do not know your sisters or your self. Your will is lost to you in this strange bartering in which guilt is traded back and forth, and grievances increase with each exchange. Can such a world have been created by the will the child of God shares with her mother? Did God create disaster for her child? Creation is the will of both together. Would God create a world that kills herself? Today, we try once more to reach the world that is in accordance with your will. The light is in it because it does not oppose the will of God. It is not heaven, but the light of heaven shines on it. Darkness has vanished. The ego's idle wishes have been withdrawn. Yet the light that shines upon this world reflects your will, and so it must be in you that we will look for it. Your picture of the world can only mirror what is within. The source of neither light nor darkness can be found without. Grievances darken your mind, and you look out on a darkened world. Forgiveness lifts the darkness, reasserts your will, and lets you look upon a world of light. We have repeatedly emphasized that the barrier of grievances is easily passed and cannot stand between you and your salvation. The reason is very simple. Do you really want to be in hell? Do you really want to weep and suffer and die? Forget the ego's arguments, which seek to prove all this is really heaven. You know it is not so. You cannot want this for yourself. There is a point beyond which illusions cannot go. Suffering is not happiness, and it is happiness you really want. Such is your will in truth, and so salvation is your will as well. You want to succeed in what we are trying to do today. We undertake it with your blessing and your glad accord. We will succeed today if you remember that you want salvation for yourself. You want to accept God's plan because you share in it. You have no will that can really oppose it, and you do not want to do so. Salvation is for you. Above all else, you want the freedom to remember who you really are. Today, it is the ego that stands powerless before your will. Your will is free, and nothing can prevail against it. Therefore, we undertake the exercises for today in happy confidence, certain that we will find what it is your will to find, and remember what it is your will to remember. No idle wishes can detain us, nor deceive us with an illusion of strength. Today, let your will be done, and end forever the insane belief that it is hell in place of heaven that you choose. We will begin our longer practice periods with the recognition that God's plan for salvation, and only hers, is wholly in accord with your will. It is not the purpose of an alien power thrust upon you unwillingly. It is the one purpose here on which you and your mother are in perfect accord. You will succeed today, the time appointed for the release of the child of God from hell and from all idle wishes. Her will is now restored to her awareness. She is willing this very day to look upon the light in her and be saved. After reminding yourself of this, determining to keep your will clearly in mind, tell yourself with gentle firmness and quiet certainty, I will there be light. Let me behold the light that reflects God's will and mine. Then let your will assert itself, joined with the power of God and united with yourself. Put the rest of the practice period under their guidance. Join with them as they lead the way. In the shorter practice periods, again make a declaration of what you really want. Say, I will there be light. Darkness is not my will. This should be repeated several times an hour. It is most important, however, to apply today's idea in this form immediately if you are tempted to hold a grievance of any kind. This will help you let your grievances go instead of cherishing them and hiding them in darkness. Very powerful. May your true will be expressed today, and happy practicing.